All right, let's look at some practice here that you're going to try some of these. So I want to do a little bit of guided practice with you. I will go over some and have you try some as well. So um, on these ones, you're going to state whether the triangles could be proven congruent, if possible, by side, 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 or side, angle, side, and then write a congruency statement. So basically, we're saying, could I prove that these triangles are congruent either by somehow saying that all the sides are congruent, or by somehow saying that you have a side angle and a side that are congruent? And if you do, then yes, you can prove those triangles are congruent. If you can't, then you cannot prove that they're congruent. So for example, let's take a look at number 1 and number 2. So sometimes you have to think creatively with these as well. So number 1, you see it has a side angle and a side that's already showing us are congruent. So could we prove that these two triangles are congruent? Yes, we could by SAS. So I would say, yep, I can say these are congruent by side, side, side. And then I could write a congruency statement where I could say triangle QYT is congruent to triangle CKP. And with your congruency statement, remember that you need it to be in the same order. So like Q and C are corresponding, K and Y are corresponding, and then T and P are corresponding. All right, so that's what we're doing for these ones. We're just saying, can we prove them? If so, how? And then write the statement. So let's look at number 2. I have side and side, a side. Now, could I prove that that side is congruent? Yes. So I could prove that all 3 sides are congruent. So even though it's not marked, I know with my knowledge, I've seen examples of writing proofs, and I've seen how we would say that a line is congruent to itself. So I could say, yes, these are congruent by side, side, side. And my congruency statement would be triangle ACD is congruent to triangle ACB. Okay. So that is what you are doing for these ones. So I'm actually going to have you pause and try these ones out. Some of them you might have to think creatively for, and you might have no idea on some of these. Okay, that's fine. I just want you to take a look at them on your own and kind of see what you think. Can you prove some of these are congruent? And there's a couple, I will say 2 of them, you cannot prove them. So we'll see if you can figure out what those 2 are. Okay, here we go. So on number 3 here, we could prove it with side, angle, side. And you can kind of see that. So you've got side, angle, side, and you're able to prove that those 2 are congruent. So you had your side, you had your angle, and then you had this side was shared. So you could say that those ones are congruent. On number 4, we actually cannot prove that those are congruent. So might have been confusing at first. You can see that you have these 2 sides and you have an angle, but they're not in the proper order. So here's how I can read that. I go side, side, A, side, side, angle, SSA, SSA, or AA, or sorry, ASS. We can't have ASS. Okay, so you cannot prove that those are congruent. So they're not congruent, we would say. Number 5 here, you have a side, and then you have this shared side. So we could use side, side, side and say that they're congruent. On number 6, you have 2 sides that are given to you. And then you could also say that these 2 angles are congruent because of the parallel line. So those 2 angles mean that they're parallel lines. And then you could say that those are alternate interior angles. So that's a little bit harder to see that. You might have seen that, you might not have. It's okay. This is still just beginning practice, but we could use side, angle, side and say that those are congruent. Number 7 there, that's an SSA or an ASS. That doesn't work. So ASS. The angle has to be in between the 2 sides. So like it would have to be there and there. So we can't prove that those are congruent. And then number 8, we could use side, angle, side, because we have side, side, and then look, you could say that those vertical angles are congruent, and we could use side, angle, side. So it's really important that you tried looking at these and seeing if you could identify how to prove them, because eventually you're all on your own to figure out, how to prove two triangles are congruent. And keep in mind, we're only using 2 reasons right now. Eventually, we're going to add on 3 more. So it's kind of a lot. So that's all for those little practice ones. And now we'll look at some more proof practice, which is going to be right here. So what I actually want you to do now for this proof, and you may feel a little bit not ready yet, but I want you to look at this proof and see if you can fill in anything here. So can you write down the given statements? Can you find some statements that you can make? This is kind of all on your own, but I want you to just try it out. Look at this problem. What if this was a test question? Could you come up with something to write in these statements or reasons? I imagine that you can. Maybe you can't get it all start to finish, but I want you to go ahead and just try out some of this proof, and then we'll take a look at what the answers would be on here. So just try this using the previous examples. And keep in mind, so this is side, 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 and side, angle, side. So it's going to be up to you to see which one you're really going to be utilizing here.